I'd just like to welcome, I don't think I welcomed Brendon earlier, and Tony Sheehan. So welcome today and good to see you. On the exercise thing, John, you want to say something?
Jim here. I am going to mute everybody, so Nev, you'll have to unmute yourself to talk.
Yeah. Righto.
Yep.
John, you want to say something?
Yeah, just in relation to the exercise comment, which is something I've long believed in. I've recently changed to Peter Mac, and my new oncologist, Louise Costas, arranged a exercise program sponsored and set up by Zoladex. I think it's called PrEP, and I've just received it in the mail, and there's a whole lot of, a very thick book of exercises and some small things to go with it, like the straps that you use for resistance and a ball to sit on and things like that. And I get 3 or 4 phone calls from exercise physiologists to help me with the program. I haven't started it yet. It's only been a week or so, but I was wondering if anyone else had any experience with this. And it's free too, by the way. Zolodex obviously pay for it.
Anybody online had any experience with Zolodex exercise program?
Jim.
Yes, Tony Sheehan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tony.
Yeah, I've done that Zolodex program, and I found it beneficial. It did push me a bit sort of towards my limits, but I felt at the end of it that I had gained a benefit out of it.
Does it go for a certain length of time, or is it ongoing, or what's the story there?
Oh, it is limited. I think you've got a certain number of visits to the exercise psychologist, or whatever they call them, and after that you have an assessment, and then the exercise person does a report back to Zolodex.
Are you able to go again next year, the following year, or do it again, or?
I don't think so. I think it's a one-off. I don't think Zolodex is prepared to pay for you to have it as a continuing thing.
Yeah.
What about you, John? Have you explored that?
Look, I'm not 100% sure yet, because I haven't even spoken to someone's ringing me on Monday for the first time. I suspect you can continue with the program and use the things they sent you and the book with all the exercises, but the paying for someone to actually assist you, as you said, 3 or 4 times, is probably a once-off. That's my understanding. But hopefully, if you've been trained well enough, you can continue on your own.
Yeah, that's basically what it's about. It's training you to use the equipment they supply so that you'll get a benefit out of it.
Well, if Zolodex do something, we'll say for 5 visits, isn't there a government program you can get that'll do the same thing? I don't know what it's called, but there's some program there's 3 or 4 different options you can take, and exercise is one of them, and you'll get 5 visits a year with that program.
Yeah, Medicare.
Yes, Alan.
That's a plan that Medicare pay for. 5 allied health visits of any mix or kind. They're free. They're based on a calendar year, and physiotherapy is one. I'm not sure whether exercise physiology is in that list. It should be the most appropriate, but you wouldn't have a commercial program listed in that system. Just the specialist allied health specialist to get a referral to. Most likely, and that would be ideally be a cancer trained exercise physiologist.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Anybody else got a comment on the exercise programs at all?
Mark Godfrey has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Mark. I can't even find you on my screen.
I'm here somewhere.
Yes, Mark?
Yeah, I did one. It wasn't through Zoladex. I've never been on that, but it was on some trial or something. I think I did, and they send you the band and give you a bunch of exercises to do. But yeah, on the 5 like I get the 5 allied health visits, but yeah, they're generally hard to use for free. There's usually a gap for all the things I've used them for. So I've used them for a range of things, and there always seems to be some sort of gap, but it definitely makes it a lot more affordable than it would be otherwise.
Brendon,
Thanks, Matt.
White's waiting, Neff.
Yes, I can see Brendan's
Oh, right.
hand up there. Yeah, Brendon?
Yeah, I've signed up for a clinical trial with the University of Canberra. They're looking at the effects of cognitive and physical exercise on the brain fog that's associated with the hormone therapies, including Zoladex. So they're actually paying people to come in and get into one of the treatment groups, which does either physical or cognitive or both types of exercise. So it's not related to a specific brand. It's just a general clinical trial.
Right. Thanks, Brendan. Yes, Jim?
I don't remember which company, but Zolodex wasn't the first one to offer this kind of exercise at home through with advice. So.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. Rightio. Any further comments on the exercise programs that may or not be available? Hope Horizons, the guys in Toowoomba, Hope Horizons in Toowoomba, they have an exercise program. It's a cancer centre that was built by donations, and they provide an exercise program for some of the Toowoomba prostate cancer support guys. And I don't think it's limited to a few visits. I think it's ongoing, but I'm not sure how frequent it is. It might be, I don't know whether it's once a month or once a week or how often it is. So I've never been to it. So I haven't. Yeah, anyway, there is different programs out there. Who'd like to raise another topic? Oh, John, I'll ask you, how are you finding Peter Mac? I know you haven't been there too many times at this stage, but you're getting on all right there?
I've been very impressed, actually. Yeah, a bit of a wait time, but once I get in there, I spent 20, 30 minutes with Louise, who's been very helpful, rather than the 4.5 minutes I got from my private oncologist, which I had to pay for. So yeah, she's been. I've been really impressed. I haven't started any new treatment because my PSA had gone up. I started becoming castrate resistant to Abby and Zoladex, and it had gone from 0.5 to 2.5, and then 6 weeks ago it had gone to 2.8, and we were about to start. If depending on the results that I had last week, a combination of chemo and the lutetium radiation trial, but for some reason, and I hadn't done anything different, it had dropped to 2.32, which is nearly a 25% drop in 6 weeks, which I'll take. And Louise couldn't explain it, I couldn't, but I'll take it. Happy with that, and another test in 5 weeks' time, and hopefully it either holds or drops again. But yeah, so far my contact's been limited, but I've been certainly impressed with the knowledge and the customer service and all those things. Yeah,
You're in the door. That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish you well there.
And I think that, and then one of the important points she said to me, that because I have been keeping up my exercise and my diet, and I'm relatively fit, even though I'm struggling a lot at the moment with loss of muscle strength, especially in my legs, and I think that's more steroid related. But because of that, I'm eligible for a lot of trials that maybe guys who aren't as fit as me might not qualify for. So that was for me personally positive and pleasing. Another benefit, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Oh well, all the very best with that, and hopefully your PSA keeps heading in the same direction that it's been going the last few weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else got a question or a comment to John? All right. Anybody else like to? Who's the next person that would like to raise a subject or a topic or ask a question? Bring us up to date on there. Oh, sorry, Peter. Peter Hall, you're on mute, mate. Oh, I
Wouldn't
thought he wanted to
unmute. Instead of having the little arrow, I had the hand, and it would talk to the hand. Talk to the hand. Yes, I'm in a bit of a quandary at the moment. 3 years ago, my orthopedic surgeon said that my left knee was bone on bone and wanted to do a total knee replacement, but didn't want to go through with it because, as she said, I was having enough issues with my ongoing cancer treatment and to put it off as long as I could. Well, the time has come, the walrus said, and I'm now booked on the 4th of December for a total knee replacement. However, my orthopedic surgeon fully understands the issues that I'm having with the side effects of darolutamide, and has written now twice to my oncology team to get their buy-in for me to suspend the darolutamide until such times as I can have the knee replacement done and go through a period of recovery. And for some particular and unknown reason, my oncology team are digging their toes in. So much so that I actually penned a 2.5-page letter to every member of my specialist team and posted it to them, and basically put it a day in the life of Peter Hall so that they could understand the issues I'm having. And I think I raised at the last meeting about darolutamide, but there didn't seem to be too many people that were on it. Even today, I'm having a rough trot with sleeping. I was awake before midnight last night with leg pain, and at 3 minutes past 2 this morning, I was looking on my mobile to see whether darolutamide also has deep vein thrombosis issues because the pain was so intense. So I'm between a rock and a bit of a hard place at the moment. If my oncology team won't agree to the suspension of the darolutamide, I'm just going to have to go off it myself, because there's no way I can deal with the ongoing pain of darolutamide as well as the pain of a total knee replacement. So that's my position at the moment. Yes, Alan.
Peter, I'm just wondering if you've thought of discussing with your oncology team the possibility of reducing the dose of darolutamide.
That's the only thing that they will allow me to do, Alan, and I've titrated it, and I'm still having those severe pain and tiredness. I can sleep twice a day.
Yeah. Well, on the pain one, I guess the usual thing that most people would do is to go for the analgesics, even anticipating before you go to bed. Give yourself a dose of Panadol and or ibuprofen. But that may or may not be effective in your case, but it's certainly one of the things I'd do. On the subject of anti-androgens, of which darolutamide is simply the most recent, it's in the same family as enzalutamide or apalutamide and so on. They all tend to, but to different degrees, be associated with fatigue. Enzalutamide was the first one to rear its head with fatigue, and but in the support group I tend to in Geelong here, we have a number of people on darolutamide, and none of them have reported a fatigue issue, which is interesting. So obviously you're more sensitive perhaps than they are. So my thought would be to discuss the thought of a dose reduction. You may not have done it for long enough to have got the benefit from it, but that's typically what people on enzalutamide are sent towards, who suffer fatigue. And the other possibility is switching, which is purely an experiment, switching the anti-androgens to one of the others, maybe apalutamide.
No. I'm on my 5th ADT, Alan. I've already gone down the path of Deprivation, Firmagon. I've had enzalutamide, but it had its own side effects, including bone and joint pain.
Yeah.
They titrated that from 4 down to 2 tablets, but I was still having issues. So they gave me a holiday for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, my PSA rose. They then put me onto Zytiga. Zytiga put me into a state of depression. It also affected my blood pressure.
Mm.
So they stopped that because my PSA kept on rising when I was on Zytiga. They suggested lutetium-177. I became the subject of a peer group review with 2 oncologists from the Wesley, an associate professor of oncology from the RBH, my radiation oncologist. They all agreed that lutetium-177, it was too early to go down that path, so they put me onto darolutamide. And I've been on it since June, but I've had to titrate it myself because the pain is just too much.
Mm.
Now,
It's really got a history. Where do you live, Peter, by the way?
I'm at Woody Point in Brisbane.
Right, okay. I'm just wondering if you're able to make contact with direct contact with the proponents of lutetium, because that would seem to be a way of cutting the corner.
Look, there's several trials going on at the Princess Alexandra Hospital.
Mm.
Lutetium-177 is one of them, PB212, actinium.
Yep,
I applied, I sent an email to my radiation oncologist and my oncologist asking them to nominate me for the trial. I may not get on the trial, but they wouldn't even nominate me.
Right.
Because all the action doesn't take place at the Wesley Hospital where I go. It'll be at the Princess Alexandra. So it's a case of money.
Right. So, but on a trial, though, you wouldn't be paying?
No, I don't pay, but the Wesley Hospital where I go to get treated won't be in on the deal. It'll be all at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. So both of those oncologists weren't willing to nominate me.
That sounds like a fairly rough deal.
Yeah, I can't see why the Wesley have got any role. If you wish to change treatment and change hospital, that's your right, I'd have thought.
Yes, but to do that, Alan, I would actually have to engage a new oncologist. So if my oncology team aren't prepared to do it, I've then got to go and start the whole process again of going to another oncologist. He's got to go through his, working out what's right and what's wrong with me. before he would recommend me for a trial. So,
yeah, I'm just thinking that you're always entitled to a second opinion at any point in your treatment cycle. So, you know, if you're stuck, as you say, between a rock and a hard place, maybe that's something you may need to consider doing.
yeah. Wow. And you indicated before about analgesics and so forth. I'm already on a 15 micrograms per hour buprenorphine patch each week. I'm on 2 lots of Lyrica.
Right.
I'm on Mobic.
Mm.
I'm on oxazepam.
Yep.
And the list goes on. So
yeah, that puts me back in my place. That's fair enough. You're obviously heavy duty in terms of treatment. Hard to imagine what you could add to that.
Panadol's the only thing I can add to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
I could wish we could help you more, Peter. That's for sure. Yeah, Steve.
Nav, Mark Godfrey's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, has he? Oh, but we'll go to Mark and then we'll go to Steve.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. Yeah, I mean, I've been on darolutamide since the start of the year. I haven't really had that many side effects. There was one at the start, but it turned out not to be related to that. But I was told, because my oncologist did suggest to me, oh, maybe we take a break on it to see if that's the issue. But then he said, oh no, you can't, because about like on the PBS, you only get one crack at it with the darolutamide. Like if you go off it, you can't go back on with it subsidized. So he said basically going off it isn't really an option if you want to sort of continue with it later, because you won't be able to get the subsidized price for it. So I don't know if that's maybe part of the resistance for them not wanting to take you off it.
Well, the same goes for enzalutamide and Zytiga. Technically, from what I've been told by my oncology team, is that a person is only allowed 1 second generation or novel drug during their treatment. Well, I'm on my 3rd. So I've already been on enzalutamide, Zytiga, and now darolutamide. And I was there when they had to ring up to get the PBS approval, and I thought I might have to give them my second-born child before PBS would agree to do it.
So they will do it if you sort of. They will do it then if you can.
They will do it, but technically you're not supposed to have more than 1 second-generation drug.
Yeah, that's what I was. Well, I was told. I was told just with I didn't know the different drugs, but yeah, with the darolutamide, I was told, yeah, if I go off it for any reason, I wouldn't be able to go back on it later. So I thought, okay, well, I'll put up with it. But it turned out to be something. The side effect I was having turned out to be something different. So yeah, that was all right. But I mean, apart from that, I get the fatigue, but then again, I've had fatigue since I started on like the radiation last year, so I wouldn't notice if there was fatigue, because it just seems to be a way of life these days.
Thanks, Mark. I'll just go to Steve. He wanted to say something before. You're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, it's just a question for Peter. Has surgical castration ever been mentioned and seriously considered in your case, with all the problems with
I didn't quite hear the first part of the question, Steve.
Has surgical castration been considered?
When I was first diagnosed, it was already stage 4, so it was metastatic. They said there was no point in actually having the prostate out. I've gone down the path since then of asking about an orchiectomy, and they've basically put their hands up and said, no, we won't go down that path. 20 years ago, that might have been the norm, but they prefer to do it these days with chemicals.
Any other questions or comments to Peter?
Just a quickie. I had a period of going off Zytiga and had no problems going back on it again in terms of the system, none at all. So I know there's resistance to swapping these treatments from one to another. But generally, it doesn't work anyway. And so there's good reason apart from financial. But yeah, no problem with going off and coming back on in my experience.
Thanks, Alan. Tony Sheehan, could I get you to give us an update on your life, please? Only regards prostate cancer. You're on mute, mate.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're all good.
Well, there's no real sort of update to be given. I'm sort of proceeding along sort of the way I have been for a number of years. My treatments are, I'm on Xtandi, have been since 2019, and that combined with Triptorelin injections has been very effective at controlling the prostate cancer as far as I'm aware. This is based on PSA level. And aside from the side effects that have already been mentioned from using this class of drugs, mainly the fatigue and that sort of thing, I'm sort of tolerating it fairly well and sort of.
You can't keep up with me.
And as the wife's just mentioned, I can't walk as well as I used to be able to. She skittles away on me now and I can't keep up. But other than that, that's sort of my story.
So you've been on Xtandi for a while. Say hello to Kerry for us. So,
Yeah, I'll do.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, still able to go on trips and all that sort of thing without any bother?
Funny you should mention that. As you probably noticed, I haven't tuned in for the last couple of months on the Zoom meeting, and that's because we've both been away travelling to Western Australia in the caravan.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well done.
We've only recently got back, actually.
Oh, I noticed your mobile phone number is different to what it used to be. I don't know what your new mobile phone number is. Don't give it over here.
I'll update you on that then.
Righto. Thanks for that. Jim?
Just on the physical castration, orchiectomy, it's almost never done anymore. It causes its own problems, its own side effects, number one. But the other thing is it may well advance the cancer. So it's not really an option. Back when they first introduced the chemicals with Lucrin, that they looked at patient choices, and when they were offered the chemical compared with the orchiectomy, patients were 90% in favour of the orchiectomy. So that's an extra thing. People don't like the idea of their manhood going. But I remember at a conference, a doctor saying, it was a conference with a lot of doctors in it, and he said that he expects that no one in the audience would have done an orchiectomy for years. So it's not really an option. Thanks, Nev.
Not long after the advanced group started, there was one of the blokes from the South Pacific Islands was a member, and he wasn't able to get drugs, and he came over to Australia and I'll call it castration because that's all I know it is, because that's all I've ever done. on thousands of little bull calves. So, yeah, physical castration. Poor bugger. But anyway, so I don't know whether he's still alive or not. But, yeah, it's all good. Anybody else got anything to ask or talk about? Give us an update. Oh, sorry, John, you're down the bottom of my screen.
Two things. Have a couple, 2-3 years ago, roughly, probably pre-COVID, come to think of it, I organised a talk for all of the PCFA groups in Victoria by a guy called Professor Richard Wassersug, who some of you may have heard of. He's written this book on androgen deprivation therapy and in particular the side effects, both physical and psychological, and how best to deal with it. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but it's a really good read in itself. And I'm quite good friends with him, and he's based in Canada, and he would be open to joining this Zoom meeting if anyone was interested in hearing him talk or asking questions or whatever. So that's yeah, something I'm suggesting or offering. Yeah,
he could be a guest speaker, and then we could ask him questions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds a great idea. Yep.
Absolutely. We should try and schedule it, John, and Nev, if we can. It's
absolutely.
Tony's guest speaker we had a couple of months back, which was excellent. It's a totally different topic from a different vantage point. Be great, John.
That'd be great. And John,
Yep.
you should write your own damn book for all the things you've done. So you should. I keep telling you that.
Maybe that might.
Do we need to give John any advice as to which month would be a good one to target?
Yeah, look, I need to look because of the Canadian time difference. I need to sort of work out how that goes with this particular time slot, and I'll have a chat. I'll email him later and just see what suits. I need to start with what suits him and then see how it fits in with you guys.
Well, I mean, another option, if we can't speak directly, not quite as good, but he could perhaps record a presentation and we can play that. Doesn't give you the Q&A, but if the time doesn't work out, it's an alternative.
Sure. Yep. Okay. And then there's the book.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The other question is, I've gone on since since I started becoming castrate resistant. They upped my steroids from I can never remember the name of the first one I was on, but onto a stronger Dexamethasone, and I've had a lot of side effects from that. Yes, it certainly worked in terms of stabilizing my PSA, but I've had rapid weight gain, breathing issues, more leg pain. My arms are all got red, as though I've got thin blood, but I think it's just the capillaries maybe have thinned out. A whole series of side effects, quite unpleasant, apart from the speedy thing that I get as well, which also impacts on insomnia. I'm wondering if my response to the steroid is typical of what normally happens, because it's not something I'm enjoying at all on top of everything else.
And yes, we'll go to Alan first and then Jim.
Okay, just a first question, John. Is that used for DEXA in the context of abiraterone, or?
Yes.
Yeah. So the reason for a corticosteroid is to control blood pressure and drop in potassium in your blood. So it's important. The key question for me, because I use dexamethasone in conjunction with abiraterone also. I switched with agreement from my oncologist from prednisone, which was the steroid carried out at the original trial stage of abiraterone, to this one on the basis of a quite small trial, which showed that it was a little better in terms of the cancer response as measured by PSA. It's about several times more potent steroid than prednisone or prednisolone. The dose, what dose are you on, do you know?
Well, my private oncologist started me on 2 milligrams in the mornings. But
That's awfully high. You're talking about dexamethasone.
Yeah, well, and then when you heard,
wow, that's extremely high. I mean,
is it
the dose of dexamethasone that's equivalent to prednisone at 5 milligrams, which would be these days the normal level. The trials were actually done at 10, but most oncologists, I think, would recommend 5 nowadays. The equivalent dexamethasone would be 1/10 of that, 0.5 of a milligram. Right?
So just to finish what I was saying, I was indeed on 5 milligrams of I can't think of the other steroid, the less strong one. And then when Abby started failing, essentially, my oncologist said, "Well, let's change over to Dex, and that might hold it for a bit longer," which it did. But when I and the side effects, as I said, were pretty bad. But when I changed to Louise at Peter Mac, she said, "Oh, the latest research says you can probably halve that and go to 1 milligram," which is what I am now on for the last 8 weeks. And it's certainly not, it's better, but it still has its problems. But you're suggesting that I could even go lower again.
Well, from what I've read and from what my oncologist told me, that's the equivalent dose to 5 milligram of prednisone, 0.5 of dexamethasone, 1/10. Okay. And I just warn you, I went off that for a period at the same time that I took a holiday from Zytiga, since my PSA had been so low for so long. It is a major trap going cold turkey off any steroid, but particularly Dexa. You'll encounter significant problems with joint pain and other side effects, which is like you don't want. You've really got to, even from a very low dose, you've got to ease yourself off it very gradually by either halving the tablet and then halving the frequency and then dropping the frequency to every 3 or 4 days, and it'll take at least a month if you ever go off it, because I went off it way too quickly the first time and it was horrible.
Okay, so going from 2 to 1 cold turkey overnight will probably explain why I had a lot of issues there.
It more than likely would, mate.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, Jim, you'd like to add something?
Yes, please. Back in 1994, I had enormous amounts of steroids. If you know the Michelin Man, that's what I looked like. For those who aren't old enough, those blow-up things that you see these days, blow-up dolls and things. Not those sort of dolls, the ones they use for advertising. Sleep, problems with sleep are caused by steroids. The skin problems are caused by steroids. My adrenal gland, although I counted it down over about 2 months to stop it, my adrenal glands had collapsed. So I had to then go on the steroid and count it down over 6 months. And that fixed it until a few weeks ago. A few days ago, good heavens. I was having trouble sleeping. Now I'd had some trouble coughing, and I'd taken some asthma medicines. And one of them, a Turbuhaler it's called, contains a steroid. I didn't discover that until I'd been having the sleep problems, and then looking through my pharmacopoeia to see where that might be, and so that may be the cause of that as well. Thanks,
Jim. We might get somebody else to make a comment. Would you like to give us an update, Nick, on how things are at Cessnock Singleton area? We haven't got any volume.
I've got to put my headphones on then.
Oh, good.
I don't know how this laptop works. It seems to, I can hear you without headphones, but I need headphones to talk.
Fair enough.
My situation hasn't changed since last time. I'm really waiting on a next PSA to do in January. And I haven't really kind of morphed into taking any medication post-surgery, which I had nearly 8 years ago. So I had the prostate removed 8 years ago in February 17, and that seemed to do the trick, although my PSA has never been normal. So it dropped down to, over 5 or 6 years, it dropped down to 0.05. Then now it's climbing up. So this year it started to climb from 0.05 to 0.1, then 6 months later 0.3, 3 months later 0.35. So it's sort of still going up, maybe not as quickly. So next January will be the next PSA test. So he's taken me from 3 monthly PSA tests to 6 monthly. So which I'm fine with, and at the moment I'm fine with. But PSMA scan was clear, so nothing really has changed since the last meeting I
good. Thank you very much. Any quick questions to Nick?
Just one quickie.
Yes, Alan.
The PSMA scan, what was I think you mentioned this once before, but what was the PSA level at which the scan was done?
0.35.
Well, at that level, you'll get about 65% certainty of picking up a tumour at that PSA level. That increases pretty rapidly as the PSA goes up. So you may, if you've got doubts that the PSA is rising a bit more quickly, I'd be inclined to stick with the 3 monthly frequency. For the time being. I mean, it is going up. It's not a time to take your foot off the pedal.
No, he knows my history, and he knows that my PSA has fluctuated. It hasn't always. After surgery, it was 0.5, and then it just kept dropping. And we had PSMA tests at that 0.5 point time, but it just kept dropping to very low levels, but not. It's the changing that bothers me. It's the fluctuating that bothers me. It really hasn't been. It might be low. Now it's rising, but it may pick up something on the next PSMA scan I have, if I have one next year.
Well, I mean, the thing that would trigger a PSMA test would be the PSA profile. I mean, okay, you get a bit of a flutter in the results, but if there's a clear trend in the time series upwards, and particularly if it's accelerating at all, once you get PSA of somewhere between 1 and 2, that to my mind would be as early as I'd be worrying about a PSMA test. Just given your history, you just want to be clear that you've got a basis for it. You may find trouble getting it funded if you don't.
Thanks, Alan. Have you had to pay for those PSMA scans?
No, I didn't. No, the 1 years ago I had 8 years ago or 7 years ago, that was AstraZeneca paid for that. They were charging back then, and now they don't seem to charge for them. So with that.
Well, I think you're allowed to anyway. So
is that
if AstraZeneca paid for the first one, well,
it won't count.
Yeah, it won't count at all. No. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Brendon, would you like to give us an update or?
I'm
Thank you.
fairly new. I was diagnosed in July, so I've just started immediately on Firmagon and just started on the abiraterone this month, and hoping to have radiation in January.
How are you handling the Firmagon?
No problems.
Don't get a rash in the tummy, or?
Oh, the first two. Yeah, the two injections the first time. Yeah, it was pretty sore, but that went away in 3 days or so.
Yeah, right. It's when you hear guys on this video, they talk about Triptorelin. They've gone from Firmagon to Triptorelin because of issues with Firmagon. I put issues in inverted commas, so I do. The Garalax, or whatever you want to call it, Firmagon to Garalax. Yeah.
Just at the injection site, Nev, wasn't it?
Beg pardon?
It wasn't because of its effectiveness. It was just
no.
issues with the injection site.
Yeah, absolutely. As Alan pointed out, it wasn't the effectiveness of it. Yes, Yanni.
Yeah, the other issue with Deprivation Triptorelin is because it's a lot more convenient. You can rather than have to have it injected every 28 days as you do with Degrelix, you can get a depot and have it injected once every 3 months or 6 months.
Yeah, good point, Yanni. Thank you for that. That's just something for Brendon to consider. Yes, Jim?
A couple of other issues. One is some people get lumps from each injection, and by the time they've been having it for a few years, it's sort of hard to get through it, I guess. But anyway, the problem is the lumps that are there. The other issue is the one that led to me giving it up, and that was after a few years, I started getting flu-like symptoms. I'm not sure how long after I started. I was on it for 7 years, so but at some time I started noticing these flu-like symptoms, and they went for a day or 2 or 3. But by the time I've been on them for 7 years, I was feeling quite off for about a week after I had it. It's a bit like the flu. I mean, it's not as bad as the flu, but it's enough to have you thinking about something else. It was convenient for me because I was seeing the doctor every 28 days anyway. So there's a couple of more issues. So the most common way it is given is just the first day with those 2 injections, and then to a more convenient one. That's the way it's mostly used through the world. And the reason for that is, of course, that Firmagon immediately drops your testosterone and other androgens, male androgens, and the reason that's sometimes I'll just, that's enough. Thanks, Nev.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yes, John?
Is Firmagon an alternative to Zolodex? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. With Zolodex, you have to take Oshudex for a couple of weeks before you have Zolodex. Firmagon, you can just go straight in and have it. You don't need something for tablets for a fortnight before you have it. Yes, Jim?
So the main reason that it's used first, if they suspect there might be metastases, because it drops the PSA, the testosterone and so on immediately. All the others add to your testosterone and other androgens. Basically, the others all go to your brain, and your brain sends a message to your balls saying, give us as much testosterone as you can. And your balls keep pumping out testosterone. But again, eventually after a couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks or something like that, on average, your balls just give up because they've been going so hard, and so they stop giving testosterone completely. So that's the way they work. And if you have metastases, of course, for those 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're getting all this testosterone food for the cancer. And if you've got cancer in the bones, that can become very, very painful. So that's more of that story. Thanks, Nev.
Thanks, Jim. But Brendon, we're not suggesting, if you're happy with Firmagon, we're not suggesting you go off it. We're not giving you medical advice or anything like that. And as you can see from the conversations here, some of these men were on Firmagon for many years before they changed. But I'm just letting you know that there is an alternative to Firmagon if you do have issues with it down the track. So there. So yes, Tony Maxwell.
Just wanted to raise something. A couple of meetings ago, we had a gentleman called Rhino who appeared here, and he had all sorts of difficulties with his hormone treatment options and the side effects he was getting. I don't want to talk about Rhino behind his back, but suffice to say that at our recent local support group meeting, Rhino turned up in person, and it was basically a rerun of the session that we had here on the advanced group. And similarly, I don't think it resolved anything very much as far as Rhino was concerned. My general question is in regard to Zolodex is the traditional initial stage 1 hormone treatment. And in the good old days, people would be put on a Zolodex, they'd get some benefit for a while. They would then be whacked onto chemo, and then they would die. That was the process. Now, since then, we've had a whole raft of other hormonal injections and all the rest of it. When I went on to hormone treatment, I was put on to Lucrin initially, which was the alternative to Zoladex. And I've had fatigue problems and all the rest of it through, but I didn't seem to have the sort of level of problems that Rhino was talking about with his Zolodex. Do we have any sort of a feel for, and I know that, it varies from person to person and all the rest of it, but do we have any sort of feel about the efficacy of thinking about moving from Zolodex to Lucrin to try and buy the time that's needed to control the cancer, so that maybe some other treatments come through later down the track? Is there any sort of evidence that points to one being better than the other with certain people? That's all I'm asking.
Not that I'm aware of, Tony. I don't know whether someone else wants to comment on that, but yeah, we all react differently to these hormone therapies.
Tony's got his hand up.
Yes,
Nev, I was on Degrelix for quite a number of years, and as Jim said, part of the reason I stopped was because my belly was so full of scarred spots that the GP found it difficult to find a suitable injection site. So he then put me on to Zoladex, and he did the injection a couple of times, and I bled at the site like a stuck pig. And so after that, I did a bit of research, and I concluded that Deprivation, also known as Triptorelin, was the most effective of the first generation anti-androgens, and that whilst it was a two-part mix. It was a much, much, much smaller needle and had zero impact on anything after the injection was made. There was no pain in the site. There was no swelling. There was no anything. But that it was more efficacious in suppressing testosterone production than any of the other first generation alternatives. Now, I can't cite any documents to refer you to for that, but certainly that was what my research indicated. And I've got to say that I've been very, very happy with Deprivation since that time. And from what I understand, Jim has been as well.
Yes, Jim.
We're talking here Triptorelin. What is Triptorelin? I don't know what it is.
That's another name for Deprivation.
And what's Deprivation?
It's a hormone therapy, just like Zoladex or Lucrin.
Yeah. Never heard of it.
No, well, it hasn't been around as long as Zolodex or Lucrin.
Okay.
So for Yanni or anyone else is interested, just contact me and I can give you that research, which shows that Triptorelin, this other drug we're talking about, does hold your PSA down, your testosterone down for longer, specifically than Zoladex. Zoladex sometimes just before the end, it's supposed to hold it, say 84 days if you're on that dose. Often breaks through and the testosterone comes in those last few days. And there's none of that on the Triptorelin. Rhinos, so that's not a solution to rhino.
His problem is the side effect.
Yeah. If his problem is with the side effects. I did mention, I think, in that meeting that a rare side effect of these first generation ones that we're talking about is a person can be affected by the ingredients, be allergic to essentially to the ingredients that are mixed with the active drug. And in these rare side effects, then changing to another first generation has worked.
So do we have any sort of feel for quantifying that? I mean,
it's rare.
It's rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
That happens. Okay.
Yeah. Because most of the side effects that people get is because they've got no testosterone. So, and they all rob you of testosterone.
I mean, in Rhino's case, the Zolodex is controlling his PSA, but it's the side effects that are knocking him out. So he's talking about giving the whole thing up because the side effects are just unbearable for him.
Right.
I was at a meeting at Brisbane years ago, Tony, and there was a guy there, I can't remember which one he was on, but he used to have to get up and change his pajamas 3 times a night because he's got flashes. So he was in a pretty bad way, I tell you.
Yeah.
But he didn't have many options to go to, many different options to go to at that stage because there was only a couple of hormone therapies out there. So there was.
Alan.
Tony, Peter held up the name of, there it is there. He's holding it up now. You can see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, Alan's got the same box, so he has. God, they're all on it.
And in about half an hour, I'll be on my way. Hey,
So how does that relate to Zoladex and Lucrin? Is
well,
it
basically, Tony, they're in the same class. They're G and RH agonists, but
as which of the initial ones?
Sorry?
The two initial ones are not in the same class as each other. They have a different mechanism of action, don't they?
Well, the agonists, the G and RH agonists, so-called, the ones that Jim mentioned, tic-tac with your brain or with your pituitary gland, and your testicles, that's what they're there to intervene with. They're all in the same class. That's to say Lucrin, which is probably the most commonly used, Zolodex, which is probably the next most commonly used. This is in Australia, and Deprivation or Triptorelin, which is a bit more recent, and from what one or two people have said, appears to hold out a little longer than either of the other two. But they're in the same category. And if someone's having trouble, there's absolutely no government or any other restriction on swapping from one to the other, purely experimentally, to see how it goes. And in Rhino's case, I would be trying Deprivation or Triptorelin and just track it, see what happens. No other way of knowing, really. But it doesn't involve anything other than a change in prescription from the doctor. Could be either the GP or more likely if it's a change in prescription.
I couldn't get that message through to him, so I don't know.
Yeah. But you could...
I just wanted to ask, are we going to touch on that Metformin?
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
I thought we might have, because we're running out of time a bit.
Yeah, we are. I'm looking at the clock. Yeah, but what would you like to say? Yes, Yanni?
But Tony, the Degrelix that many of us have referred to, that is a different type of operation to Zoladex, Lucrin, and the GnRH agonists that Alan was referring to, because they, as Jim was saying, get your testicles to overproduce testosterone and exhaust them. The Degrelix works by sending messages from your androgen.
Can I suggest we write this down in a simple sort of half page of information, so
sure,
we understand what we're talking about, because some of these new names I don't know, and I've lost track of what the mode of action of them is.
Fair enough, Tony.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, but just to finish, the Degrelix sends messages to cease production rather than to your testes, rather than overproduce, and that's why there's no flare when you initially take it. So Rhino could also try Degrelix, because it's got a totally different mode of operation.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Right, before we get onto the metformin, Steve, have you got anything to add at all to your situation?
No, I'm just in a holding pattern.
Good.
Next test is due in December. So
yeah, very good. All the best. Mark, have you got anything to add to your situation, or has it changed? Or
no, I've got end of the month. I've got my next 3 months appointment, so find out if the darolutamide still doing its job.
Good.
I think 0.07 was the last one 2 months ago, so hopefully
all the best with that one.
Continues.
Now, metformin. Jim.
Not metformin, but if you can look at your messages, that's a list of the new anti-androgens. Neville sent out a copy of that
Nev can't even see it, so there's little chance of sending it out at this stage.
I'll be able to give it to you.
Righto, thank you.
Can anyone else see it?
In the
No,
chat?
nobody's turned on their chat.
No, not in the chat.
No.
Oh, yes, it is. Just come up. Okay, bit delayed. You had so many words there, it took a while to load.
Come to the latest. Yeah, righto. It's there.
But that came up with your robot, Jim, so you off for a pee?
Oh, the robot beside. No, if you have a robot here, you can't see it up there, can you?
No, just joking.
Nev, I'm going to have to disappear in about 2 or 3 minutes. So
yeah, righto. Let's get on to Metformin.
I'll just quietly wander off when I have to.
Yeah. Do you want to start with it, Alan?
No. I think so I didn't distribute the article. Oh, yes, I did. I did actually. I didn't distribute it on this forum, though. But for those who have had a chance to look at the link, the most recent research seems to suggest that in spite of its popularity, and I know it's used by a couple of people on this panel, has been, Tony's case is used for diabetes, if I got it right, Tony. Anyway, and I think in Yanni's case, he was using it as an add-on. But that link did quote evidence to say that the efficacy of it in relation to prostate cancer was marginal at best. So that was the point of it. And I would imagine that both Yanni and Tony might have some comment to make about that. But if you haven't read it, it's worth having a look. It's a little bit like a number of things that have happened in the history of prostate cancer, and they go for quite a while. I can remember pomegranate juice was one of them.
Absolutely.
There was another one which was one of the minerals that you find in potatoes. I can't remember the name of it, which is allegedly short in terms of the natural environment. And they used to have supplements needed for that. But ultimately, the science caught up with those in those two cases as being myths. So whether or not Metformin finishes up in that same camp, I don't know. But this article is certainly something that you should read and make your own judgment about. And with that, I'm going to take off. So would you mind?
Right. Well, just before you go, Alan, thanks for your input today. But I did send the article out, as you know, but I didn't throw you and Yanni under the bus when I sent it out. So now that you've put yourself and Yanni under the bus, it's nothing to do with me.
No issue. But I know Tony may have some comments on it as well. He's been a user for quite a while, if I got it correct. So
Righto.
I'm going to have to go.
Yeah, Tony did make comments on it. Yeah, all the best, Alan.
Yeah,
we got it. Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of read that with interest because, I've been on Metformin since 2017 when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So I've been on it ever since. I don't, if it's made a difference, I'm not sure where it would be because it hasn't exactly, nothing sort of really held it back for too long so far. So, I'm a bit sort of skeptical about it all with the benefits of it. Like I said, I don't really think it's helped me that much.
No, that's fair call. John?
Yeah, I've been on it for about 5 years too. And I don't think that it doesn't seem to have made any difference, but of course, you never know. So many different medications, causality is hard to pinpoint. But I have read some interesting material on Metformin saying that dosage is fairly critical, and they recommend 1,500 milligrams a day, which is a lot more than what the article was referring to. And there's a mob in the UK of doctors who are trying to look at repurposing existing drugs, which Big Pharma aren't so keen on because they don't make much money out of it. And Metformin is certainly one of those. And there's an interesting article I can send to you, Nev. Maybe you can distribute it if people are interested in reading another take on the efficacy of metformin.
Yep, balanced view. Yeah, thanks, John.
Okay.
Yes, Tony.
Yeah, I've been on metformin for about 10 years now for my type 2 diabetes. I continue on a version of it today. I can't say that I can see any effect of it on the cancer at all. So I read your latest information with interest and continue for the type 2 diabetes. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't disagree that metformin could be probably pretty problematical for dealing with the cancer.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tony. Any other? Yes, Yanni?
It's sort of like the Y2K bug. You never know what would have happened if you didn't take the precautions. So I accept the information in the article that Al circulated. I equally had come across an article only some months ago, which was very, very detailed in its analysis of chemical impacts and graphs and charts and all sorts of stuff. But you can view that with some skepticism, as all of the authors had Chinese names. However, it was an incredibly detailed article, and that said that post failure of enzalutamide, it was a way of refreshing sensitivity to enzalutamide. And then more recently, I came across an article that said that on analysis from, I think it was the Stampede trials, that it had no impact, no discernible impact on low volume disease, but that it may have impact on high volume disease. The article that Alan circulated concluded with it does no harm and may even extend your life because of various cellular interactions that it has. As recently as about 3-4 years ago, I can't remember if it was Mark Moyad or Mark Schultz, who were a couple of the gurus specializing in prostate cancer in the USA. They recommended that there was no downside on taking it, so why not take it? And I subscribe to that school of reasoning. One thing that I think it has helped me with is many men complain as soon as they go on androgen treatment of a rapid increase in weight, especially belly fat, and that impacts their heart potential for heart disease and such like. I've actually found that I haven't put on any weight at all. If anything, I've lost a few kilos. And the only downside that I can see to it is that it runs down your vitamin B12, B12 being needed to maintain nervous system health. But I overcome that by taking B12 supplements every few days. So I don't see that there's any downside.
Hello, can I speak?
Jim?
Next?
Sorry, I was mute. Yes, Jim. Thanks, Yanni.
Absolutely nothing to do with prostate cancer, but I must stand up as a person who authorised at least $10,000s, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars of money to address the Y2K problem. It is very simple to test whether it will make a difference. On every computer, you can manually put in the date. And if you put in a date that was past 2K, then the program's crashed. So that's a myth. Now, whether that would extend to aeroplanes flying in the air or whatever, I don't know. I was only looked after state government computers. Sorry to put in something that wasn't prostate cancer, Chairman.
That's all right. I was going to say something towards that myself, but I won't now. But anyway, yeah. Well, PCRI, they were on, take Cresta. It might help or it mightn't help. It doesn't. If it won't do you any harm, but it might do you some good. I took Cresta for a while, but I don't bother to take it anymore. So I don't. And pomegranate juice was the same. Take pomegranate juice. We don't know whether it'll help it, but we'll find out. Anyway, it didn't help, so we stopped drinking pomegranate juice. So we did. So anybody else got anything else to add today, or question or comment? Rightio. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance, and see you all next time.